So I'm sure you guys have heard of those three basketball players that were in China and they were caught stealing some like Louis Vuitton sunglasses, etc. And then they were later detained by the Chinese authorities, and they could have possibly faced something like 10 years in prison if they were, at the highest extent. A lot of legal experts were saying, no, it's not going to go that high. But even if it was a couple years or a few years, that's still, a long time. So this was still a serious crime, just as serious, or probably more so than what Otto Warmbier did in fucking North Korea, right? And that was likely a forced confession on his part too. He may not even have stolen anything. But what I see what you don't see right now is a lot of stories from like Affinity Magazine, Slate, HuffPo. You don't see all of these liberal pundits coming out saying like these guys were stealing based on their privilege, right? Because that's what was coming out with Otto Warmbier. They're like, oh, this guy, he's a white frat boy type. He deserves exactly what he's getting. He should serve his full sentence. This is what he deserves. But you don't see any of these stories coming out for these three black guys, right? They're not like their black privilege made it so they stole in China and stuff. It was their black privilege that made them feel like it was okay to steal. Like, where are all these stories? You don't see fucking any of them, right? And then Trump, he did actually play a role in helping release these people. Like, he did go to China directly, speak to the Chinese president directly, right? And even his team, his legal teams, I forget, John Kelly or something, helped like reduce their sentence, more to a misdemeanor and stuff. So they definitely played a role. And even if that's what the government is supposed to do anyways, that doesn't discount what the fuck he did, right? It was still a good thing. He could have not said anything, right? He wasn't forced to say something. Like, that is what you should do, but he wasn't forced to. He could have just said nothing. Really, he could have. Because, them getting caught, right, by China and stuff, is they have more like a political bargaining power now because they have detained Americans and stuff. So that's not good for America, having detained people in other countries, right? Especially a country like China, who you're bargaining with all the time with trade and all this shit. So, who knows what he may have given up to get these people, or he just has a really good relation, because maybe he didn't have to give up anything, which is even better. So, but now, all the guys that came out, they thanked Trump, they were grateful and stuff. But one of the guys that were captured, his dad, LaVar Ball, or who was arrested, LaVar Ball came out and he's like, Trump didn't do nothing for my kids. They would have been fine regardless. They've been through worse, etc. Like, they can handle themselves. And it's like, really, you would have been fine with him being in fucking prison? But it's like, these people, they cannot give Trump credit for anything, right? No matter what it is, doesn't matter what he does. Even if it helps people, they will find a way to say, oh, well, it's still not good enough, or this or that. But that's just politics, right? Like, you got to expect that in politics, that no matter what the other side does, even if it's good, the other side is going to make it look bad because they want to win the election next year. So it's not pragmatic for them to make their opponents look good, even when they do something good, right? But Trump, he came out, made a tweet, and he's like, fuck you, essentially. I should have left these guys in China. Now everybody's freaking out about this tweet and saying like, oh, blah, 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 how could you say this? When you do something nice for somebody, you can't take it back, etc. But I think by doing this tweet, he's making essentially everybody admit who's trying to downplay his role in releasing these people. Now they're essentially having to admit that he did play a bigger role, because they're like, oh, how could you say this? How could you take back something good you did? Blah, blah, blah. It's not good anymore. So now you admit that he did play a role in it. So, a lot of his tweets that I think that do seem like they have certain errors or this and that. They seem almost designed to get certain reactions out of people. And maybe I'm reading too much into it. And maybe it is just stupidity and just its emotional state running rampant. But I don't know. It does seem to get certain reactions out of people that seem kind of beneficial for him sometimes. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.